Our protagonist starts his day complaining about something important. He says the herbs cost 8 gold coins, a pretty ridiculous price. Despite that, he's in a dangerous forest full of monsters. That's why he moves carefully, trying not to draw too much attention. Our guy explores the woods alone, searching for something valuable. He's gathering herbs to try and make some money, and so after a lot of searching, he finally finds what he was looking for. He checks out the item and figures it's probably worth about 2 coins. Our protagonist then lets out a sigh of disappointment. He remembers what his life was like when he was 6 years old. Back then he just played Dragon Quest and Pokemon all day long. Now he's become a character inside an RPG. This makes him remember how it all happened 6 years ago. He suddenly woke up and saw a ceiling he didn't recognize, and so his first thought was about work because he was going to be late, but he soon realized his body wouldn't move and his voice wouldn't come out. Our hero tries to move his hand and feels something very strange. He then looks down and realizes he has the hand of a baby, and then it hits him that it wasn't just his hand, but his entire body. And 2 people comment that the child is calm because he isn't crying. One of those people, older man, picks the baby up, and so even though he didn't understand the language, our guy was sure of one thing. That man was his father, and he had been reincarnated into a new world. He who was a 30-year-old corporate slave was now Arad's Sunveil. Back in the present in the forest, our hero lets out a tired sigh. He complains that being a noble isn't all it's cracked up to be for a 6-year-old. Besides, he got his hopes up for nothing. His family is just a poor branch of the nobility, so poor that even his father, Veil, needs a side hustle. Has to glue eyes on dolls to make some extra cash. That's why Arad reflects that getting isekai'd into a new world is no walk in the park, but after living there for 6 years, he finally understood why. He always wondered why isekai heroes never tried to go back, and the answer was simple: a child's body in an unknown language. Even though he'd played a ton of games, he missed his mom's cooking. It took him years to become a normal person, but now everything is a breeze. After all, there's no company forcing him to show up early or work overtime, so he can finish his work while the sun is still up. Our guy stretches and enjoys the super relaxing life, but suddenly, he hears the sound of an explosion nearby. Arad sees 2 people fighting a giant bear. One of them smashes the ground with a hammer to distract the beast. Meanwhile, the other one gets ready to use some kind of skill. The bear fights back, sending the warrior flying with a single swipe, but the mage seizes the opportunity and launches a fireball. The spell hits its mark, causing a massive explosion. From his hiding spot, Arad is impressed, having never seen magic up close. After the smoke clears, the creature is toast, lying on the ground. The 2 adventurers celebrate, and one praises the other's magic. They say they got lucky and now they'll have to wait until next year. And son, the pair puts the beast on a cart to take it to the guild. Our protagonist watches everything from a distance, still a bit in shock. He then remembers that in this world, not everyone can use magic. Only those chosen by the divine oracle can perform such a feat. This oracle is an annual ritual, and if you're lucky, you might gain magic. It's like a super rare gacha pull, and he's already failed 6 times. Our guy wonders what happened and looks back at the battle site. Suddenly, a small light appears where the bear was defeated, and this little light starts floating in our protagonist's direction. He then reaches out his hand and manages to catch the small sphere of energy. Arad is surprised as he now holds the light in his hands, and so light then shoots up into the sky and vanishes right in front of him. Our guy is confused because the sphere disappeared right after he touched it. He thinks it was beautiful, and night finally falls on the town. Arad then walks through the dark streets until he reaches his house. When he gets there, his mother greets him and welcomes him home. She asks if he's okay, and our hero shows her the 4 coins he earned. His mother is surprised by how much her son managed to make today. Just then, his older brother comes home, a little drunk. Their mother asks Robin if he's been drinking, and he says yes. Robin explains that he met up with a guy named Kevin. He adds that networking is very important for him. Meanwhile, Arad just watches the scene quietly from his mother's side, and so his brother then says he's already eaten, so he doesn't need dinner. After that, Robin heads to his room, looking pretty tired. Our protagonist lets out a sigh at his brother's attitude, but his mother scolds him, saying that Robin is the family heir. Arad hugs her and says he understands the situation they're in. For the nobility, continuing the family line is extremely important, and since they're poor, all the support goes to the eldest son. He then thinks that this is the natural order of things and he won't fight it, but he doesn't want to just stand by and do nothing, because in this world, effort is rewarded, and he's going to strike out on his own. And so, he continued his routine of going back and forth from the forest to his home, selling the herbs he collected to save up money, little by little. Occasionally, deep in the woods, our guy would see something. He would watch guild hunters use magic on their hunts, and in the places where the mages fought, that glow would appear again. Our hero calls the mana traces, and is intrigued. He then starts to wonder about that light, which shines without a source, and every time he tries to touch this mysterious glow it disappears. Time keeps passing, and our protagonist sticks to his routine, until a few months later, he's blown away by something. It's his first time at the main family estate, and he can't contain his excitement, and his mother scolds him, saying he might embarrass his brother. Upon arriving, our hero is amazed by the size of the place. On top of that, a large table filled with food was waiting for them. He then takes the opportunity to stuff his face with all that food. The meat was perfect, and he's never eaten anything so delicious, and his mother then cleans his face and scolds him for his lack of manners. But suddenly, his father, Lion, appears and calls for the two of them to come with him. Lion takes his sons to bow before an important figure. It was the family patriarch, a man who commanded a great deal of respect. Our guy immediately realizes that he's the head honcho of the entire family. Lion then gives his thanks for the invitation and introduces his eldest son, Robin. The father nudges the boy, who gets all nervous in front of the patriarch. Robin awkwardly introduces himself, and Arad finds it pretty weird. The old man tells him to work hard so as not to bring shame to the family. His father and brother are relieved, and Arad notices he wasn't even introduced. They celebrate the compliment, and our hero doesn't understand all the excitement. Arad just stands off to the side, watching their over-the-top reaction. He then turns his attention back to the patriarch sitting on his throne. The old man strokes his beard while observing the gathered family. Our guy understands Robin's nervousness. The patriarch is intimidating. Outside, magical fireworks explode in the night sky. The crowd gathered in the garden is amazed by the spectacle. Even our protagonist is impressed by the beauty of the magic. Soon after, everyone gathers in the central garden for the main event, and the family's elite mages will be putting on an exhibition battle. The crowd gets hyped because even the famous master Illum is present. A magical staff glows and the grand battle is about to begin. The battle kicks off, and a pink-haired maid shows off her incredible skill, and she then launches a powerful fireball into the middle of the battlefield. In response, another mage in a witch's hat prepares to fight back. She conjures a giant wave of water to extinguish her opponent's fire. Meanwhile, a mage calmly floats around on a pot using magic. Another competitor joins the fray with powerful and beautiful ice magic. One mage summons a tornado, showcasing his mastery over the wind. And to top it all off, a final mage uses the power of great thunder. The crowd is mesmerized by the show of lights and magical powers. But Robin notices that Arad isn't watching and asks what he's staring at. Our guy points to the mana traces floating across the field. The older brother is confused and doesn't understand what Arad is talking about. Our protagonist insists and points to the shiny thing right in front of him. Robin gets annoyed and says there's absolutely nothing shining there. In that moment, Arad finally realizes his brother can't see the light. Robin calls him a weirdo and tells him not to embarrass him at the party. The boy is left alone, watching the floating mana trace. Just to be sure, he calls over a maid who was passing nearby. Arad then points to the glow and asks if she can see it. The woman apologizes and says she doesn't see anything, leaving our Arad deep in thought. Our hero becomes pensive as no one else seems to see what he sees. He looks at the mana traces scattered across the battlefield, and even with so many of them, no one cares or even glances their way. In that moment, an idea pops into his head. What if he's the only one who can see them? Suddenly, the patriarch calls everyone's attention to a little girl. Some people wonder who she is and find out she's from the Lewis family. The crowd is surprised and wonders what such an important noble is doing there. The patriarch then asks the girl, named Arya, to show everyone. The elite mages watch with anticipation to see what the young girl will do. The patriarch and Lord Barton look very proud of the girl. Our protagonist watches the scene with great attention and curiosity. Arya concentrates and prepares to unleash her full magical power. She then launches a powerful fireball that soars into the heavens. After showing off her talent, the girl gives a curtsy to the audience. Our guy is blown away by what he just witnessed. Everyone in the audience gives a standing ovation for the young mage's incredible talent. Arad is amazed. He never imagined something like this existed. People with miraculous luck, able to use magic from a young age. In such a vast world, there are people who are truly blessed with a gift. And while everyone applauds, Arad keeps staring at the mana trace. Our guy then decides to touch one of the floating mana traces. He holds the sphere of light and feels something very strange happen. A voice in his mind says that Fireball's limit has been reached. Then, the same voice announces that the energy is now being absorbed. Our protagonist is startled by the sensation and wonders what that was. He even puts a hand to his ear, thinking he's hearing things. Arya then stands up and stays silent, trying to understand the situation, and so he then looks at a distant tree as if he's planning something. The boy walks towards that tree under everyone's gaze. Young Arya and other nobles notice the boy's strange movement. He looks up at the sky and sees the manosphere shining brightly. Our hero then holds out his hand as if he's about to grab something from the air. Suddenly, a small fireball forms in the palm of his hand. The power grows and is fired towards the tree he was looking at. The tree is completely obliterated in a fiery explosion. One of the mages says that wasn't lightning, but actual magic, and he then points and says it was that kid who shot the fireball. Arad looks at his own hands, completely stunned by what he just did, and a grin of pure joy spreads across his face as he discovers his power. Bizarre sensation washes over Arad's brain. He then realizes this is what it feels like to use magic for the first time. Our hero is ecstatic about this unique feeling, exclusive to this world, because in his 6 years since being reincarnated, he's never felt anything this exciting. Watching the burning tree, he notes that using magic up close is a bit of a fire hazard. Despite that, our boy gets ready to use his new skill again. He focuses with all his might for the next attack. Just like like that another, even stronger fireball is launched into the sky, but right after, he wonders why he can't seem to control the power. Meanwhile, the crowd murmurs that he used magic twice in a row. Our protagonist then starts to feel really dizzy all of a sudden, and it's at this moment he understands it's all because of his mana. After all, using up all your magical energy causes symptoms similar to anemia. This reminds him of when he used to play RPGs and level up his mage characters. People comment that Arad must have a ton of mana for his age. Others say it's to be expected since he inherited the family's noble blood. Even Master Illum, who is standing right there, is impressed with the kid. However, another mage chimes in that bloodline has nothing to do with it. She says the kid is incredible because a normal person would have passed out for 3 days straight, and so the crowd doesn't really care about the technicalities, though, and just cheers for the amazing feat. Our protagonist is thrilled. He's never been praised this much in his entire life. Suddenly a voice asks if he can also use magic. It was the young Arya, the super talented girl who had her test earlier. She introduces herself as Arya Grace Lewis and then asks for his name. Our hero says his name is Arad, and she's happy to meet him. The girl then holds out her hand, inviting him to be friends, and they shake on it, and he thinks this is the first time he's ever held a girl's hand. Right after, her hair suddenly whips across our boy's face. With a serious look, Arya then declares that she'll never lose to him. Arad is left completely confused while the girl just flashes him a smile. Seeing the scene, the Patriarch declares that the boy is a true member of the family. The old man approaches, and our protagonist gets a little nervous. The Patriarch then asks why he never mentioned he could use magic. Arad replies that he didn't know he could, and besides, nobody asked. The old man falls silent, processing the kid's surprisingly cheeky response. Our hero instantly regrets not having learned more about proper etiquette, but the Patriarch just finds the whole situation amusing and interesting, and he even compliments Arad for not looking away while speaking to him. The old man then calls for someone named Vale, who immediately kneels. The Patriarch, however, doesn't see him and asks where he is, making things awkward for Arad. The Patriarch tells Vale he has a fine son and that the boy is something special. Our hero just thinks to himself, well, yeah, that's because I'm 30 years old on the inside. The old man then says he'll be in touch and leaves with his entourage. Meanwhile, young Arya says goodbye to Arad, telling him she'll see him again. She gives a curtsy, and our protagonist just stands there, taking in the scene. Amidst all this, the crowd buzzes about how the kid caught the Patriarch's eye. A moment later, his father, Lion, pulls him into a big hug, congratulating him on his achievement. Arad is a bit bewildered by the over-the-top reaction, but he realizes that he's now become a true noble in his family's eyes. However, in the middle of the crowd, his brother Robin watches him with a dark glare. The guy looks like he's absolutely seething with anger and envy over Arad's success. A few days go by and the sun rises once again over the forest. Our boy gets back to his routine and finds a mushroom along the path. He continues his daily hunt through the woods, searching for anything useful, and it doesn't take long for him to spot a rabbit in the bushes. Arad can tell the animal is underestimating him because he's just a kid. Plus, the rabbit doesn't seem to be used to having humans around. Our hero then preps a small fireball to attack the creature. He aims very carefully and launches his magic toward the rabbit. The attack is a direct hit, and the boy celebrates his successful hunt. Our hero gets closer to confirm that the critter is a goner. He's absolutely beaming, proud of his very first successful hunt, cause now with magic, he can actually hunt and not just gather herbs. But suddenly, a trace of mana appears on the animal's body. Our boy touches the light and notices that it didn't disappear this time. He then wonders why it stuck around instead of vanishing like before. With the rabbit in his bag, he decides to look for another mana trace. And so, our hero scores the forest in search of more magic. He climbs a tree to get a better view of the surrounding area. It doesn't take long for him to spot another one of those glowing lights. He notices the area hasn't been burned or anything like that. He figures it must be wind magic and approaches it cautiously. The energy gets absorbed right into our protagonist's hand. He lets out a sigh of relief that everything went off without a hitch. Just like that, our boy realizes he can learn new types of magic. After that, he heads back to town with his catch of the day, and he walks happily through the streets until he reaches his destination. There, he greets the butcher shop owner, who welcomes him warmly. Our hero then offers up the rabbit he managed to catch. The man is surprised and asks if he really hunted it all by himself, and so the man inspects the rabbit and notes that it's fresh and without a scratch on it. Our hero then starts to explain how he pulled off such a feat. He reveals he used magic, and the butcher yells in excitement, drawing everyone's attention. Arad gets a little embarrassed but says he can only do simple stuff for now. The man is happy for him, saying he tried for 40 years to learn magic and failed. He then asks if our boy can bring in more rabbits in the future. The butcher likes his confidence and says that's the spirit of a true mage. He then pays for the rabbit and promises a good price for any future game. Our protagonist says his goodbyes as the man gets back to work. Arad is in shock. He earned as much from that one rabbit as he would from a whole day of gathering herbs. With magic, he can reach his goals way faster than before. Arad looks up at the sky and smiles, because magic is the answer to everything. he clutches the pouch of coins he earned from today's hunt. Our hero thinks that the more magic he uses, the easier his life will be. That's why he decides his first step is to find more mana fragments. In a city this big, he's sure he'll find plenty of them. So, our boy enters the city and starts exploring the area. He looks all around, searching for any magical glimmer, but after walking for a long time, he's shocked to find not a single fragment. And so, sitting on a bridge, he wonders why there's nothing around here. And suddenly, he hears someone shouting for help and gets confused. A man is harassing a florist, but she says she's already turned him down before. The guy won't take no for an answer and grabs her arm, squeezing tightly. The girl gets scared as the man insists she shouldn't be like that. Arad gets annoyed, realizing this world has these kinds of people too. He figures a direct attack would be risky, so he cooks up another plan. And so he'll shoot a blast next to them to scare the guy off, then move in. And so his wind magic hits the stall, sending everything flying into the air. Out of nowhere, a blonde-haired guy shows up and tells the creep to stop being pathetic. The harasser falls to the ground and angrily asks who this young hero is. The gust of wind continues to scatter petals, making a mess all over the street. So, the harasser is left on the ground in the middle of the whole mess. The blonde guy asks the florist if she's okay, and she thanks him for his help. He then flirts with the girl, and she gets all flustered by the compliment. But on the ground, our hero spots a single, shining mana fragment. Arad is confused because he used magic twice, but only one glimmer appeared. He then starts to wonder how mana fragments actually appear, and he quickly realizes that in a peaceful city, no one needs to use magic. That's why our boy needs to go somewhere where magic is constantly used. Suddenly an idea pops into our protagonist's head. And so he remembers his mother warning him never to go into the deep forest, and cause that place is full of scary and very dangerous monsters. The memory of his mother's warning echoes in his mind, but he has a plan. And so, he thinks the chances of finding fragments there are way higher than in the city. And since he can use magic now, he decides he's going to try his luck. And Arad then walks with determination toward the entrance of the forest. But on the way, he sees a funeral taking place in a cemetery. He overhears an old woman lamenting that she couldn't use healing magic, and so another says that resurrection magic would be nice, but it's a privilege of the gods. Our boy listens to the conversation and understands the situation in this world, and so, he then concludes that bringing back the dead is something that simply doesn't exist. Our boy remembers thinking a lot when he was a baby. After all, as a child, he had plenty of free time to reflect, and one of his most recurring thoughts was about life magic, specifically, whether resurrection existed in a world of swords and sorcery. But now he's a resident of this world and has just gotten some valuable intel. So, our hero is happy to have figured this out at just the right time, and so now understands that he needs to be careful, because you only get one life. Arriving at the deep forest, our protagonist notices the air feels different, and the sun can barely break through the trees, creating a very gloomy atmosphere. Arad admits that without magic, he would never have the guts to enter this place. Suddenly, he hears the sound of footsteps and goes on high alert. The sound gets closer and closer, and our boy readies his magic. He reminds himself once more that what doesn't exist, simply doesn't exist. Arad then hides in a bush to see what's going on, and as he peeks out, he's completely shocked by what his eyes see. A gigantic pack of red-eyed wolves is racing through the woods. Our hero covers his mouth, stunned by the sheer number of monsters. But out of nowhere, a giant white creature attacks the wolves without mercy. The attack kicks up a cloud of dust and leaves all over the place. Our boy is startled by the explosion and is almost knocked backward. Suddenly, Arya remembers his mother from his past life, crying, and he sees her calling his name while weeping in despair over his loss. And so this memory hits him hard, right in the middle of the dangerous forest. Our hero then feels bad for reincarnating without a proper goodbye. And despite this, he decides to focus because he needs to be extremely careful in the forest. And suddenly, a huge noise startles him and knocks him flat on the ground. He just sits there, trying to figure out what just happened. Our hero then realizes it's two giant monsters fighting. Hidden, he wonders if the two creatures are fighting each other, and so the sound of the battle echoes throughout the woods, scaring all the animals. Our boy then shrinks down to avoid being seen by the beasts. He carefully peeks out to get a front row seat to the fight from a safe distance, and what he sees makes his jaw drop. It's that impressive. A monster that looks like a giant lizard is facing off against a bizarre creature. The big lizard lands a solid punch right in its opponent's face, and the impact is so brutal that it shatters part of its protective shell. But the other creature retaliates with a fierce and rage-filled bite. Arad is amazed. It looks like a super realistic monster movie. The two beasts continue to clash in a very brutal battle, and to finish it off, the lizard prepares a devastating electric attack. And the lizard fires a blast of lightning that causes a massive explosion. Arad's jaw drops because that is definitely real magic. The other monster falls to the ground, smoking and completely defeated. Next, the big lizard lets out a loud roar to celebrate its great victory. It then kicks the defeated creature far away with considerable force, and then it drags the body away, leaving the battlefield clear. Our boy lets out a sigh of relief as the danger has finally passed. He then surveys the scene of the fight as the sun begins to set. Suddenly, a glimmer appears, and our hero reaches out his hand to grab it. He then celebrates because he got what he came to the forest for. Despite the danger, our protagonist achieved an excellent result, and he even discovered that magic exists in the forest, which was a stroke of luck. He then notices it's already getting dark and decides it's time to leave. Our boy thinks he shouldn't overdo it for a single day. The forest becomes even creepier as night falls, and so he then hurries to get back home as quickly as possible. But on the way back, he spots a light shining in the darkness. As he gets closer, he realizes it's more mana fragments floating around. One of the spheres of light glows intensely right in front of him. Arad is shocked and wonders if he's seeing things or if it's real. Our boy then approaches carefully, looking all around, and so as he gets closer, he sees that it really was a shining mana fragment. But suddenly, the sphere of light starts to disappear right in front of him, so he runs and reaches out his hand to try and catch the mysterious glow. The energy is then absorbed, and our hero feels something very different, and so a voice in his mind tells him he has obtained resurrection of the dead. He stands there frozen, trying to understand what just happened. Arad's jaw drops, because resurrection magic isn't supposed to exist. An adventurer examines a shiny gem he found on his hunt, and so, his party celebrates, as it's been a while since they found something so valuable. But suddenly, our protagonist appears and greets the adventurers, and so he then asks if they are mages, and one of them points to the woman in the group. The girl is curious, and Arad approaches her, having something to ask. Our hero wants to know if they happen to know about ancient magic. The mage is very confused by the question, as she's never heard of it. No one there has any idea what it is, and they ask why he wants to know. Arad makes up an excuse, saying someone complimented him for using this magic, and so, the group laughs and says that's just talk, because they've never heard of it. Our boy apologizes for the question, and the mage says it's alright. They then advise him to head back soon, as the area is dangerous. The woman even offers to escort him, but Arad politely declines. He then says his goodbyes and thinks that they're just like everyone else. Our protagonist remembers having asked several other adventurers, but apparently, no one knows anything about the so-called magic he discovered, and so this leaves him super frustrated, as he really wishes he could just search the internet. And Arad deeply misses the web for solving his problems quickly. Meanwhile, life in the city continues at its usual pace. He concludes that in this world, information is expensive and hard to come by, so on the ground, he writes about the ancient magic, resurrection of the dead, but he quickly erases it, concluding that this magic really doesn't exist. And suddenly, his brother Robin shows up and asks what he's doing there. Our hero has a bored expression on his face. His brother's been drinking again. Robin is a bit drunk and doesn't understand our boy's reaction. He then asks about the ancient magic and calls Arad weird, and the older brother tells him to stop with these useless fantasies, and even tells the boy to try harder to be like him. Robin brags about being friends with the famous Kevin, but Arad doesn't care. As he's showing off, a mysterious voice greets our protagonist, and to his surprise, it was Arya, and he's shocked to see her there. The girl says she has something she needs to show our hero, and she then faces him with a determined look, one that says she won't lose. Robin comes over and puts a hand on his younger brother's shoulder. He gets all flustered and asks who this beautiful little lady is. The older brother blushes and tries to act like some smooth talker. Arad then reminds him of Count Louis, whom they met at the party. Robin says he remembers the Count, as he ran into him just a little while ago, but he can't connect the dots and just stands there in confused silence. And so our hero gets frustrated that his brother remembered the grandfather, but not the granddaughter. Our hero feels sorry for his brother, as the situation has gotten really awkward, and meanwhile, the young Arya doesn't seem the least bit interested in the guy. Arad thinks that at least she wasn't offended by Robin's attitude. Suddenly a luxurious carriage arrives, making a lot of noise. The vehicle is pulled by 2 white horses and looks very expensive. A butler comes running out in a panic and scolds the young lady for going out alone. The girl says it's fine because she's a mage, but he doesn't agree. The man insists that if anything happens, he won't be able to face his master. Arya complains that her butler, Craig, is always overreacting. Robin finally notices the crest and realizes it belongs to Count Louis. Arad thinks that his brother only just now figured it out, but it's too late. Robin awkwardly introduces himself, but the girl doesn't seem to care. She just says it's a pleasure to meet him and calls him Arad's brother. Our boy is surprised when she suddenly ends the conversation, and so Arya reminds him that she had something to show him and beckons him to come with her. The girl points to the sky and says she came here just to show him this. She then concentrates her mana and creates fire energy in her hands. The magic grows and transforms into a super powerful fireball. Arya fires the attack, which burns her butler's hat in the process, and she then turns to Arad and asks what he thought of her power. Arya says our boy missed the most important part of her magic. She explains that power isn't just about using it, but also having total control over it. And so according to the girl, the most important thing is knowing how to control all of your mana. Our hero thinks it requires more concentration but doesn't see a huge difference. But suddenly, it clicks, and his eyes light up with a new idea. And so Arad understands that the girl must have trained a lot to reach this level. And so, the butler then hands her a handkerchief to wipe the sweat from her face. Our protagonist thanks her for showing him her great skill. He's impressed that she worked so hard, even though she's so young. Arya gets a little flustered by the compliment she just received from Arad. He notices she's happy and says that it's truly amazing to see. And suddenly, our boy realizes his brother Robin has vanished and isn't there. The young mage offers to teach him, since they both use fire magic. Our hero feels like he's playing with a friend's kid. The girl then calls him over to start the lesson, but something interrupts them. It was his brother Robin, who had returned with someone else by his side. He then introduces the guy as the famous Kevin from the Artisan Street. Our boy rolls his eyes. His brother seems really annoying right now. Arya notices that Robin's shoulders are very tense and raised, and so Arad realizes instantly that he just wants to show off his friend to her. And so, in the courtyard, our hero wonders how he's going to deal with this awkward atmosphere. But suddenly, a super luxurious carriage arrives and stops right in front of them. Everyone is surprised and looks to see who's arriving. A servant wearing a mask gets out and places a small stool on the ground. Shortly after, a man with white hair calmly steps out of the carriage. And so everyone's astonishment, it was none other than the patriarch of the family. Robin and his friend Kevin are shocked that such an important person has appeared. The old man approaches the group and comments on all the commotion, and so he then looks at Robin and calls him Bard's brother again. The young man nervously bows and introduces himself as Robin to the patriarch. The older brother thanks him for his words and is visibly relieved. Meanwhile, his friend Kevin just watches everything silently from the side. Our protagonist doesn't like the scene and keeps his bored expression, and he thinks his brother's pride must be really wounded by the situation. The patriarch then ignores the two of them and goes to talk to Arad and Arya, and so asks the little girl why she's in a place like this. She says she wanted to talk to Arad, and the old man praises her for her initiative. And so, our boy then asks the count what brought him there that day. The patriarch gets serious since he is there for a specific reason. He then stares at our hero with a super intense and focused gaze. The patriarch remains silent and looks at what Arad wrote on the ground, and so, he then strokes his beard and seems to be thinking about something very important. Next, he asks who the author of that mysterious writing was. Our boy raises his hand and takes responsibility for all of it. The old man then asks where Arad heard about ancient magic. Our hero realizes that nobles are the ones with the most information. That's why he's certain the patriarch knows something useful. And so the old man repeats the question and points to the writing on the ground again. Arad knows he needs to answer to get any information, but he also knows that just any lie won't work on him. And besides, the pressure the old man is putting on him prevents him from lying. So our boy decides to hide the truth about the mana traces. He then says he heard a voice when he learned to use his magic. So, the patriarch thinks he's talking about the voice of the gods from the oracle ritual. Our hero continues the story, saying it was this voice that told him. The old man is silent for a moment, processing the information. After thinking, he simply says he understands Arad's situation. The patriarch then turns and starts to walk away. Our boy is shocked and asks if he's already leaving. The old man says this isn't the place and that he'll send someone soon. Our boy just nods his head as the old man leaves. The patriarch then gives Arad one last look before departing. After his departure, the atmosphere in the courtyard remains very awkward. The old man then asks the butler if Arya only has a single servant. The girl defends Craig, saying it was her fault for being stubborn. The patriarch then decides to give the young mage a small scolding. He reminds her that their family is very noble and has a reputation. That's why it's dangerous for her to walk around without a guard escort. Arya then apologizes, and the old man says her grandfather would be worried. Meanwhile, our boy notices a suspicious figure in an alley. He remembers seeing that man at the party, working as a bodyguard. One of the patriarch's horses neighs while waiting for its master. The shadow of a fearsome creature appears for a brief moment. Shortly after, the old man's carriage leaves, and the area goes quiet. A door closes, and the street falls into a very uncomfortable silence. Craig continues to scold the young Arya, who keeps her head down. Our protagonist just watches the scene silently from a distance. The girl looks very sad and disheartened after being told off, and so Arad then approaches and reminds her that she was going to teach him how to use magic. Arya perks up instantly, thrilled at the chance to teach our hero. Arya is silent for a moment, looking at her own hand. Our boy then wonders if he managed to cheer the girl up a bit, and she turns around with a smile and asks if he really wants to learn. And Arad is happy to see that she's brightened up and seems quite pleased. This reminds him of his past life and his little daughter. So remembers when she tried to teach him how to tie a ribbon. The little girl tried very hard and managed to make a perfect bow. He then praised his daughter and hugged her, so proud of her. That scene makes him wonder if his friend felt the same way. Back in the present, Arya begins to explain mana control. She compares mana to water in a glass that can spill. So, he must think of the water as mana and control how much he releases. Our hero understands the concept while the butler watches them from a distance. And so Arad thinks this is similar to the training he'd see in the manga he read. The girl then demonstrates by creating a fireball in her hand, and she launches a small, controlled attack that only kicks up a little dirt. After that, she lets out a sigh, looking a bit tired. Arad asks if she's okay, but Arya says it was nothing. She then says that now it's our protagonist's turn to try the spell. Our boy decides not to make it look easy, so as not to disappoint the mage. Our boy concentrates and creates a small flame in his hand. He tries to control the mana to make the attack weaker and more clumsy, but the fireball becomes so small that it ends up exploding instantly. The two of them jump and shout, startled by the explosion. Arad is confused and wonders why his magic suddenly exploded. Arya comforts him, saying not to worry because no one gets it on the first try. Our hero then realizes that controlling magic makes him tired more quickly. He notices that the smaller the fireball, the more mana and stamina it consumes. Our protagonist then decides he'll test this hypothesis later, and suddenly, the butler Craig screams desperately for the young lady to run. The man is then thrown into the air by a mysterious attack. Arya screams her servant's name as she sees him fall to the ground, injured. The girl is frantic, seeing the scene and not understanding what happened. And three suspicious figures appear, and one of them says the boy matches the description. Arya then launches a fireball to protect our protagonist, but she suddenly realizes her attack didn't come out as expected. The girl panics as her magic simply doesn't work. One of the enemies then begins to cast an ice spell. Our boy goes on alert, realizing they are also mages. The mysterious mage prepares to launch his freezing attack. Our hero pushes Arya away, shielding her from the imminent danger. One of the enemies orders the others not to let the pair escape under any circumstances. Arad then turns with a very serious and determined look, ready to fight. The mysterious mages conjure a shower of ice shards from the sky. So our boy scoops up the mage and runs to escape the attack, and so he narrowly dodges the shards that embed themselves in the ground everywhere. The field is flat with nowhere to hide, but Arad has an idea. He then runs with the girl towards a small thicket nearby. One of the mages laughs, but the other warns him not to overdo it with the power. The ice attack continues to rain down and scores a direct hit on their hiding spot. A large cloud of dust and ice rises from the explosion. The villains celebrate, thinking that was enough to stop them. But suddenly, the ground begins to shake, and something strange happens. A gigantic pillar of ice erupts from the ground, surprising everyone. The enemies are shocked and wonder what that pillar is. After the dust settles, the smoke dissipates, revealing a silhouette. Arya looks at the scene, amazed, not understanding what happened. Our protagonist is on his feet, facing the enemies with a serious look. An aura of fire begins to envelop his body, making him stronger. Arad then prepares to fight back and show his true power. Our protagonist's eyes glow with an intense green light, and the ground is covered in ice shards left over from the enemy's attack. Our boy steps carefully to avoid getting hurt on the crystals, and surrounding forest is completely destroyed from the recent battle. Suddenly, Arya screams her butler's name and runs toward him. She and our hero climb a small hill to find the man, so Craig is lying on the ground and seems badly injured after the attack. The girl gets frantic and tries to wake up her servant, who isn't moving. After a moment, he finally wakes up, and the girl is relieved. He then gets up and says she needs to get away from those men. Arya calms him down and says it's okay, the danger is past. The butler is confused and doesn't understand what she means by that. Arad then scolds him, telling him to get Arya out of there as fast as possible. Our protagonist warns that the enemies could come back at any moment, and so Craig and Arya get scared and decide they need to leave right away. The butler agrees and calls for the young lady so they can go. The pair then heads back to the city, leaving our boy alone. Craig smiles and waves to our hero as their carriage departs. Arad watches the vehicle go, feeling a bit confused. Suddenly, the carriage door opens and Arya jumps out of it. The girl runs back to our hero, who is waiting for her on the road. He's surprised and calls her name, not understanding the situation. Our protagonist then asks what she wants and waits for her answer. Arya gets all flustered and thanks him for saving her earlier. Arad is shocked. He didn't expect her to come back just for that. He finds her gesture very polite and different from his brother, and suddenly, the girl starts to tremble and seems very nervous. And so, even the butler Craig and the horse notice something is wrong with her. Our hero asks what's wrong, but she stammers and can't speak. Arya's eyes well up with tears as she tries to say something important. Arad then looks at his clothes and thinks she called him dirty, but the girl shouts that's not at all, and he's confused again. Our boy then has a lightbulb moment and understands what she wants to say. He smiles and asks if she found him cooler than she expected. Arya turns bright red and yells at him, embarrassed by the question. The girl denies it with all her might, but our hero doesn't believe her. He then insists and asks what she really wanted to say. The mage scolds him and tells him to be careful not to get burned. After that, she runs back to the carriage, all irritated. And so, the girl then orders her butler Craig to get them out of there now. Our boy stands there, watching the carriage slowly drive away. He then smiles and thinks that Arya is a very sweet and kind girl. Arad thinks being with her makes him feel like a father again. Our protagonist then starts walking alone again through the city streets, and he continues on his way, moving further and further from the city center. Our hero goes to a cliff to observe the surroundings from there. He sits down and thinks that the enemies probably won't be back anytime soon. Arad gets worried and wonders if monsters got them on the way, but he quickly dismisses the idea, as they wouldn't be able to escape a beast. After relaxing a bit, he looks at the horizon and lets out a sigh, and so he then sits down and looks at his hands, deep in thought about something. Our boy checks to make sure no one is around so he won't be seen. He thinks it's embarrassing how mages shout out their spells. After calming down, he concentrates to test a new magic. A bluish energy appears, and he prepares to use the ice spell. Our hero then manages to create an ice blade with his magic, and so he analyzes the crystal and notes that it's about 20 to 30 centimeters long. Arad is impressed, as the size is the same as the enemy's attack. He realizes he can learn any magic instantly with mana traces. Next, he tests his fire magic and creates several attacks at once. Our hero imagines a great war with explosions and knights. He also sees himself fighting a group of mages on a cliff. Next, he uses his light magic to create protective shields. Arad imagines himself defending against attacks with his magic barrier. Our boy sees himself on top of a mountain, surrounded by spheres of light. He then imagines himself as a powerful hero, controlling all that energy, but he suddenly snaps back to reality and shakes his head. And cause if he acts like a careless gamer, he's gonna have a really bad time. That's why our protagonist decides he needs to value his life. He reflects that even if he learns resurrection magic, and so he probably couldn't use it on himself if something happened. And so, after all, that's the big difference between healing and resurrection magic. Our hero then looks at the ice crystal he created earlier. He decides that for now, he won't use that magic and will focus on the basics. Our boy is going to test the ice magic he learned in the fight, and he concentrates, trying to change the shape of the ice with his mind. Arad then tries to create something thinner, longer, and much more durable, and after a lot of effort, he manages to create an ice sword. Our hero realizes that with practice, he can do this much faster. He then holds the sword and is surprised by how cold it is. Suddenly, an idea pops into our protagonist's head. He then wonders what that sensation he felt earlier was. Our hero sticks the sword in the ground and prepares to try again. He tries to remember what he felt and concentrates to use the magic, and so ice begins to form but ends up breaking in the middle of the process. So Arad then finally understands what he was doing wrong. He realizes the problem was the time it took to create it. After all, adjusting mana takes time, just like it did with Arya. Our hero understands that the secret to everything is the casting time. If his theory is correct, he can do something truly incredible. Arad then creates a large ice pillar in front of him. He concentrates and focuses all his attention on his new creation. Our boy then forcefully casts the ice blade spell. He stays silent for a moment, waiting to see the result. Suddenly, a voice calls him, and he turns to see who it is. And so is a hunter who beckons him over, having something to say. In the air, a star-shaped as crystal shines brightly, and so the hunter and his friend are shocked by the boy's magic. The crystal then shatters into several pieces and falls to the ground. Our hero is happy because his theory worked perfectly. The hunters are impressed with our protagonist's magic, and so Arad panics because he doesn't know how to explain what happened, and they say it's incredible that he knows how to use delayed casting. The star-shaped ice crystal continues to glow on the ground. One of them then asks who taught the boy that magic. Our hero is in a tight spot, having been caught using an advanced technique. He thinks about making up an excuse but doesn't know what to say. And so, the hunter says it's impressive that he mastered the technique on his own. Arad tries to deny it, but the man continues to praise his great skill. The other hunter agrees and says the boy is truly incredible. And so, one of them then asks whether he learned the technique from someone or not. The guy points and says Arad is lying because he was caught red-handed. He then says that the boy's family must be very poor. The hunter gets annoyed at the comment, and the two start arguing, and so, the blue-haired one threatens to hit his friend to teach him a lesson. The other apologizes and says he didn't mean to offend our boy, and so, He says he's sorry and that he wasn't trying to make fun of him. The friend also apologizes, saying he spoke without thinking. Our hero says it's okay because being poor is the honest truth. To make up for it, they decide to teach our protagonist something cool. One of the hunters creates a green magic disc and throws it into the air. He then approaches and tells our protagonist to try touching it. Arad points and asks if he should touch that specific spot. Our hero then reaches out his hand and touches the floating magic disc. Suddenly, a wave of energy throws him backward with considerable force, and so the hunter laughs and asks if he enjoyed the little demonstration. But his friend scolds him and tells him to teach the boy properly. The guy agrees and says he'll explain everything step by step. He then turns to his friend, looking very annoyed by the scolding. The hunter explains that his magic activated with a timer, but this time, his magic remains still, waiting for a command, because the activation condition isn't time, but a trigger. Depending on the condition, the magic can activate in various ways, and it's possible to make the magic work like a switch or a timer. The hunter says that magic is similar to computer programming. Our protagonist becomes super interested in this new discovery. He then begins to learn the new technique from the hunter. Our boy and the hunter train together, creating several ice spikes, and so Arad thinks that the count's escort is on a whole different level. The trio then continues to train until the sun sets on the horizon. One of the hunters praises our protagonist's incredible focus. Arad apologizes for taking so long, but the hunter praises him. The guy then asks if our hero is tired from using so much mana. He mentions that the boy was attacked by 3 people earlier, and the hunter then asks if Arad knows anything about the enemies. Our hero says he doesn't know anything, and the ice crystal melts. The pair of hunters look at each other, seeming to have a silent conversation, and so, the guy explains that he is guarding the young lady on the count's orders. Our protagonist then understands why they stayed behind. The hunter asks if he can remember any details at all. Arad shakes his head, as he can't remember anything. The guy says it's alright and that it's time for them to go. He says goodbye and messes up our hero's hair before leaving. His friend scolds him, saying that Arad is also an important noble. But the hunter doesn't care and says that they're friends now. The pair then says goodbye and leaves, leaving our boy alone. And so, he then decides he's going to practice more to thank them for their help. Our hero tries to use the ice magic but ends up fumbling, and so, he falls to the ground and complains that this is the hardest magic he's ever used. Arad then lies down on the grass, tired after so much training. Our boy complains that it's hard to train because he can't see the magic, and so he wonders if there's a better way to do it. He looks up at the sky and thinks the forest should be safe now. Arad then decides that the best practice is real experience and goes to train. And so, the next morning, our hero returns to the forest again, and suddenly, a rabbit is caught squarely in one of his ice traps. Our protagonist celebrates because his first hunt was a success. He thinks that if he uses traps, he can train and hunt at the same time. So Arad begins to set up another trap near a tree. He then wonders how his other hunting spots did today. But upon checking, he sees that the trap on a cliff caught nothing. Our boy then thinks the location was bad and decides to move it. He continues his hunt through the forest, carrying the rabbit he caught. Our hero then stumps firmly on the ground, preparing a new spot. He sets up another of his ice traps with great care. Arad notes that the magic lasts for a day, which will make his hunting easier, and so on with this new technique, he manages to catch several other rabbits. Our protagonist hums happily, having secured the day's prize, and he then walks back to the city with all his catch. So arriving there, Arad goes straight to the market to sell what he got. The butcher gives a thumbs up and praises the boy's work. For that, our hero receives a bag full of coins for his hunt, and so, he's shocked by the amount of money and wonders if he'll get rich from this. And suddenly, Arad remembers his mother and gets a little thoughtful, and so our boy decides to buy a present for her with the money. He goes to a florist and buys a beautiful bouquet of pink flowers. After that, our protagonist walks back home, feeling very happy. He passes through an alley and continues on his way home, and so Arad walks through the narrow streets as he gets closer to his house. Arriving there, he notices that no one is home yet. Our boy remembers creating a magical sensor for the door, and so, it was a system that would light a candle when someone entered the house. He then approaches with the bouquet in hand to see if it worked. Our hero says he's home but notices something very strange about the door. He's confused because his magical sensor doesn't seem to have worked. Arad then realizes that the switch for the trap is also gone. His face shows shock as he doesn't understand what happened. Furthermore, the candle he left in the pot is still the same, and so, our boy is sure he set everything up before leaving in the morning. That's why he wonders if his magic was dispelled by someone. Our hero remembers that in games, there are dispelling magics. Suddenly, he remembers the bandits and understands what happened. Our boy is shocked by the revelation and starts to panic, and so he then realizes he was the target and drops the flowers on the ground. The next day, the flowers are in a vase, decorating the window. His brother Robin wakes up yawning, and his mother calls him to the table. And so, the young man then complains about the rye bread and asks for regular bread. On the table, only a few slices of dark bread are served, and so his mother apologizes and says this is all they have for today. Robin grumbles that the bread is bad and eats it with a look of disgust. Arad thinks that his brother grew up with a noble and selfish pride. Suddenly, someone knocks on the door, interrupting their breakfast. Our boy wonders who it could be so early in the morning. The whole family is surprised, and the mother asks who's knocking. After what happened yesterday, our hero is on high alert and prepares himself. A man enters and apologizes for interrupting their meal, and so, he then introduces himself and says he's looking for the residents of the Vale family. Arad's mother asks who he is, and Robin looks at him, very confused. The butler apologizes for the late introduction and presents himself. He then reveals that he serves under the command of the powerful Lord Barton. The entire family is shocked to see the butler standing at the door. Robin gets all excited, thinking the visit from the main family is for him, but his father, Lion, holds him back, and our hero notices his brother's pride. And they all just stand there awkwardly, not quite sure what to do, and so the butler just stands there, patiently waiting for the family. Father Lion then introduces himself and asks what brings him there. The man explains that he has come on Count Barton's orders to fetch Lord Arad. The news leaves Robin and his mother completely shocked and speechless. Lion then processes the information with a very serious and focused look. Even our protagonist is surprised, as he wasn't expecting this visit. Suddenly, Robin gets angry and grabs his father, not believing what he heard. The young man grumbles and seems very irritated with the whole situation. Lion then holds back his older son to keep him from doing anything stupid. He then turns to Arad and asks if he heard what the man said. Our boy confirms that he did and says that it's okay with him, and so his father tells him to go ahead and not cause any trouble. And suddenly, they hear a loud noise coming from inside the house. It was Robin throwing a fit while his parents try to restrain him. Arad leaves with the butler, who apologizes for the long walk there. He then explains that their carriage couldn't enter the village. Our boy says it's fine and feels a bit awkward with the attention. The butler then invites him to get into the luxurious carriage. Two masked guards open the door for our protagonist. The vehicle is enormous and pulled by two imposing white horses, and so Arad thanks them for the kindness and climbs the steps to enter the vehicle. As he steps in, he notices the red carpet is super plush and soft, and so he starts to take off his shoes but is stopped by the butler. The man informs him that he can keep his shoes on, and Arad apologizes. The carriage then departs, traveling along a road flanked by trees. Our protagonist observes the scenery through the window with curiosity, and so, the butler comments on the anger of Arad's brother back at their house, and so then asks why the boy seems so concerned about it. Our hero is surprised the butler is super observant, so he then explains that he was afraid his brother might provoke the guards. The man praises his perceptiveness and says that things would have gotten ugly. Arad then realizes there are definitely guards nearby. The butler then praises our boy for not being arrogant. Our protagonist gets anxious with so many compliments and keeps to himself. The man apologizes for his presumption and asks to offer a piece of advice. He then says that despite being young, Arad is still a true noble, and therefore, he expects Arad to treat them with the proper noble bearing. Our boy feels awkward and bows, apologizing for his attitude. He then says he understands and that he will behave like a noble. The butler smiles satisfied and nods in agreement with the response. Arad thinks it's difficult because, in his world, respecting elders is normal, and suddenly, he notices something strange and asks what's happening. Our hero asks if the road seems different than before. The butler then explains that they have just entered the tall road, and it's an exclusive route for carriages built by the count and merchants. Arad understands it's like a highway and is impressed by the idea. He thinks nobles are incredible for doing what the government usually does. The butler asks how he noticed the change, and Arad explains the reason. The man once again praises his excellent observation skills. Our boy goes back to looking out the window, thoughtful about something, and suddenly he sees a glimmer outside and is very surprised. Our protagonist asks the butler to stop the carriage for a moment. The man is confused and asks what happened for him to stop like that. But Arad has already jumped out of the vehicle and is running towards the mysterious glow. He runs along the dirt road toward a stone bridge. Upon arriving, he is shocked by the number of mana traces on the ground. He wonders if all those traces are from the same magic. As he touches one, he wonders what kind of magic it could be. A voice in his mind says the fragment has reached its limit. The butler then asks if there's something there, and our hero plays it cool. Arad is impressed by the beauty of the place, and the butler is confused, and so the man then looks at the same spot but can't see anything. The carriage continues its journey, and our boy is lost in thought. He looks at his hand and sees a shining star drawn on it. Our protagonist wonders why there were mana traces in that place, so the butler notices his gaze and asks if there's something wrong with him. The man says he looks like someone whose wishes just come true. Our hero denies it but thinks that's exactly what happened there, and so then celebrates because he got the invisibility skill he wanted so badly, because in this world, you only learn magic once a year, on your birthday. That's why it would be impossible for him to learn more than 7 spells. But now, our protagonist has found a way to solve that, and the invisibility magic is the key to achieving his grand plan. He thinks he can use the magic to alter the appearance of a spell. The carriage finally arrives at its destination, a large estate. Our hero gets out and comments that they arrived quickly, before sunset. A little Dalmatian puppy jumps on our protagonist to play, and suddenly, Arad remembers something and gets the butler's attention. He then asks the man to investigate the place where they stopped. Our hero explains that it's where he asked to stop the carriage, and so, he then says it's just a hunch, but he thinks there's something hidden there. The butler is shocked by the request and stares at the boy in surprise, and so Arad notices the reaction and is certain there's something important there. Suddenly, he enters the mansion and his jaw drops at the luxury. Our protagonist is amazed because everything is so shiny and fancy. He then hears a noise and turns to see what's happening. 3 maids arrive to serve tea and say, "Excuse us," and they offer a first flush tea harvested on the property itself. One of the girls keeps staring at our hero with great curiosity. The head maid scolds her, and the little girl immediately apologizes, and she then bows and begs for forgiveness for her behavior towards the guest. And so the head maid explains that everyone is eager to meet the famous Lord Arad, and she then apologizes and says she will ensure they are disciplined. But our protagonist panics and says there's no need for that. The butler smiles and praises our boy's noble attitude. He then says that, if anyone wants to see him, they can be called to the room. The maids are shocked by our hero's kindness. One of them even says he is more noble than the rumors suggested. Our protagonist then takes a sip of tea and relaxes in the armchair, and so he thinks that living as a noble is not easy for him at all. Suddenly, a voice startles him, and he's surprised by the visitor, and the man comments that it's good to see him, and our boy is confused. He then asks who the old man standing right in front of him is. The man introduces himself as Illum and says he is a retainer of the house. Our protagonist then formally introduces himself to Master Illum. The old man laughs and says our boy is a very interesting kid, and so Arad is confused and doesn't understand why he called him that. Illum explains that his way of minding his manners seems natural, but it's not something trained, rather a habit of many years. That's why he finds him interesting and smiles at our hero, and so Arad feels awkward and remembers the reputation of people from the east. Our boy then asks if he needs anything from him at the moment. Illum says he wants to ask about the request he made to Joseph. The old man then asks how he knew something was hidden there, and so, our protagonist remembers that he prepared the answer from the beginning. He then reveals that he can see the traces left by magic. Illum is surprised and asks if he can really see the traces. Arad decides to tell the truth, as making something up would be dangerous, and so, the old man is impressed and says it's been a long time since he's seen someone like that. He then snaps his fingers and asks if our boy can see that. Our protagonist looks down, and his eyes glow at the sight. He points to his feet and asks if that's the mana trace on the floor. Illum lifts his glasses and smiles, because the boy really can see it. Our hero then confirms with a nod, and the old man is surprised. Suddenly, Lord Barton appears and interrupts their conversation, and he then approaches, and our boy gives him a bow. The Patriarch asks Illum how our protagonist did on the test. The old man confirms that he can see the traces and even identified a mistake, and so Illum then says his goodbyes and tells them to talk another time. Our boy gets super excited and agrees with a big smile. After the mage leaves, the Patriarch looks at our protagonist. Lord Barton walks to the window and observes the landscape. He then comments on the area our hero asked him to investigate, and explains that there are many bad rumors about the construction of that place. Arad then realizes that's where the traces of invisible mana were, and the Patriarch then reveals that he hired a specialist to investigate the site. The Patriarch congratulates him and says he did very well today. Our boy feels awkward and thanks the old man for the compliment, and so the two then sit in silence for a while in the living room. And so Lord Barton scratches his beard and seems to be thinking about something important, and he then comments that Arad's father raised him very well. The old man then invites him to sit, and our boy thanks him, but he remains standing, and the Patriarch asks what's wrong. Arad explains that if he acts rudely, he will tarnish his father's reputation. The Patriarch is surprised as he thinks very deeply for his age. Our boy then thinks of his brother and uses him as a bad example, and the old man says that this is what nobles are from birth, and so, because they carry the name of their family and the people of their territory, that's why he warns him to never forget his responsibility. Our protagonist then sits down and seems to ponder the words. He then thanks him for the tea, and the Patriarch decides to get to the point. The old man remembers his encounter with Arad in the city courtyard. He then asks if our boy knows his true name. Our hero is confused, as he thought his name was Barton. The Patriarch explains that in the past, he was called by another name. Suddenly an idea pops into our protagonist's head. Our boy understands that it's like an epithet or an old nickname, and so he then realizes he doesn't know the Patriarch's name and gets thoughtful, and so, the old man then reveals that he was called the Count of the Meteor Strike. Arad is shocked because that's a super famous magic in boss fights. The Patriarch confirms that this is one of the lost ancient magics. Our boy then gets super excited about the incredible discovery, and so he plays it cool and says it sounds like a super powerful spell and nothing more. The old man then continues, and our protagonist nods in silent agreement. He explains that all titles of Count and Duke come from ancient magics, but nowadays, almost no one knows that meteor strike is a magic. Arad understands the situation and processes the new information, and so he then becomes thoughtful, and the Patriarch waits for his next question. Our boy then addresses Lord Barton to ask something, and so he wants to know what the Patriarch protected as the Count of the meteor strike. The old man is surprised by the question and repeats Arad's words, and so our boy explains that that place might be the answer he's looking for. He then stands up and faces the Patriarch with a very determined look. Our protagonist celebrates because he has finally found a clue. He then asks what kind of place it is with great curiosity. The Patriarch then stares at him with a serious and mysterious look. Our boy feels awkward and hides behind the armchair. He then apologizes for getting too excited with the question. The Patriarch laughs and says that curiosity is a very good thing for him, and so the old man then ponders how he should explain the situation. He then decides it would be easier to just show him the place, but the Patriarch explains that the title was bestowed by the king. Therefore, he cannot show it to other people without permission. Our hero is shocked and wonders if he is going to speak with the king. The Patriarch tells him to wait a few days, leaving him curious. He then invites our boy to stay at the estate for the time being. Our protagonist accepts the invitation with a very excited smile. He then becomes thoughtful about that place related to ancient magic. Arad remembers his world and how titles were chosen. He then gets super excited as it feels like he's inside an RPG. And suddenly, someone knocks on the door, and the Patriarch says to enter. Our hero wonders who it could be this time and keeps to himself, and 3 maids enter and say they have come to attend to Lord Arad. Our boy feels awkward and notices that they are very young. One of them seems to be the same age as him, and he is surprised, and the 3 then bow and wait for the boy's orders. Our protagonist feels awkward because he doesn't know what to say, and so he then asks why they are just standing there doing nothing, and so, the maid explains that they are waiting for him to say something. Our hero then asks if his room is ready yet. He thinks he needs to rest a bit alone after everything, and Arad watches the maid's back and thinks about something important, and so isn't used to children working, even though it's common, and suddenly, the little girl trips and falls to the ground right in front of him, and so the other maid scolds her and helps her get up from the floor. The girl gets frantic and starts arguing with the poor little thing. Our protagonist silently observes the scene from a distance, and so the maid then leads him to his room and invites him to enter. He then looks at the girl and seems a little worried about her. Our hero enters the room and is amazed by the size of the place. The maids stand there, waiting for his orders, and so the little girl then approaches and offers him a cup of tea, but she places the handle on the wrong side, and the other maid corrects her. Suddenly our hero has a flashback to his past life. He sees himself in a restaurant being scolded by his boss. The man yells at him, and the boy can't even taste his food, and so the memory takes him to a restaurant where he's eating some skewers. But the stress from work makes him call the waiter to leave. He then asks for the check because he can no longer enjoy the food. Back in the present, our hero gets the maid's attention, and so he then asks why they are shouting so much in front of him. The older maid tries to explain and points to the little girl, but our boy interrupts her and asks if they always shout like that. The little maid gets scared, and he asks if they see him as a target. The 3 then bow and apologize for their behavior. Arad lets out a sigh and says that's enough for now. Therefore, our protagonist orders all of them to leave the room. The maids get scared, and one of them pulls the other to leave quickly, but suddenly, he asks the little girl who tripped to stay. The other 2 are surprised, as they didn't expect that order. He then faces them and asks if they have any complaints to make, and the 2 deny it instantly and run out of the room in a hurry. The door closes, and he is left alone with the little maid. Arad then reflects on whether his attitude was truly that of a noble. He thinks he took out his frustration on them because of his past, and so that's why our hero concludes that he has no moral high ground to judge his brother. Our hero apologizes to the little girl for being rude earlier, and so then asks her to bring some tea because he's thirsty. The girl agrees, but our protagonist tells her not to rush. He explains that if it's a mistake that can be fixed, you just have to try again. The little girl is surprised by our boy's kind words. She then nods her head, looking very happy and emotional. Our hero asks if she's new here, and the girl confirms that she is, and this reminds him of how demanding his old boss was with him, and so he remembers how lost he would get and get scolded all the time, and because of that, he became a super kind senior to the newcomers. Our boy laughs and apologizes, saying he was talking to himself. A while later, the girl returns with a piece of pie and some tea for him. He gives a thumbs up and says that a rookie's goal isn't to not make mistakes, and because the important thing is to learn the job properly, something many forget. The little girl watches him, and he turns to ask her something. With tears in her eyes, she asks why he is so kind. Our hero then asks if he managed to cheer her up a bit with their chat. The girl seems calmer, and he hopes she'll make fewer mistakes out of nervousness. And so the day ends, and a new morning begins in the grand mansion. But our boy wakes up with a backache, complaining about the soft bed. Our boy wakes up feeling a bit stiff and sleepily walks across the room. And so, he then opens the curtain and peeks through the window to see what's going on outside. Outside, he sees the maids whispering and gets curious. And suddenly, the maids enter and greet him with new clothes. Our hero asks what happened, as it's very noisy outside. The head maid apologizes and says the girl from yesterday went to church. She then reveals that Clarkus received magic in today's divine oracle. Arad's jaw drops, as he didn't expect news like this. Meanwhile, one of the maids styles his hair, and he finds it strange. And so the other two make the bed and prepare the room for the day. The maid then notes that his hair is so soft it's like a doll's. Our boy then asks if the girl's name was really Clarkus. He wants to know if she's still at the church, but the maid says no. Our hero then wonders what kind of magic she got today, and he smiles, hoping she'll be able to use her new power very well. But one of the maids grumbles that the magic must be as slow as she is. The head maid then glares at her, and the girl immediately quiets down. Our protagonist then asks where the young Clarkus is now. The head maid, named May, says she will take him to the girl. She then orders the other maid to go see the butler, Joseph. The girl agrees to the order, feeling a bit awkward about the situation. She then runs out of the room to carry out what the head maid ordered. Our boy asks if Joseph is the butler who came to pick him up earlier. The maid trembles, but our hero wonders if the butler is that scary. May smiles and says that if you do your job right, he's a very kind person. Our boy imagines the girl getting a scolding and feels sorry for her. So May then calls him so they can go to the courtyard to find the young Clarkus. The two walk through the mansion's corridors along with another maid. When they arrive, they see a group of children training outside. Two maids watch the children through the window with curiosity. The young Clarkus is among them, looking a bit sad and nervous. Suddenly, our protagonist notices someone approaching him, and so, a young man thanks him for the help he gave the other day. The young man seems very shy, but our hero doesn't understand why. He then messes up our boy's hair in a very friendly way. The young man then asks if our hero already knows what happened to them. He wants to know if Arad heard that they received magic in the oracle. Our boy confirms but notices that there's something strange about the conversation, and so, the young man reveals that although they received magic, they can't use it. Our hero is shocked, as everyone is giving advice without actually helping. Our boy asks if Clarkus has been trying to use magic nonstop. The young man confirms, and our hero repeats the question, somewhat surprised. The young man asks if he's worried, but our protagonist denies it, and suddenly, he remembers the conversation he had with Master Illum. The old man said he even identified a spell with the wrong incantation, and if what the mage said is true, mana traces appear even with failures. And so, our hero thinks he hasn't understood the conditions for their appearance, but he wonders why there are no traces, even with so many failures. And suddenly, the little girl Clarkus approaches, looking a bit surprised, and our protagonist stares at her with a look full of curiosity. And so one of the other boys comments that our hero is from the Count's family. The young man is surprised and seems interested in our protagonist, but our boy has a bad feeling about this whole situation. Another girl approaches and pulls the young Clarkus closer to her. Arad is shocked, because he's a 30-year-old man on the inside. He then approaches the little girl, and she seems a bit nervous. Clarkus then greets him, stammering, and our hero replies. He also wishes her a happy birthday, and she thanks him for the kindness. Our boy then asks if she really received magic in the oracle. He then asks what kind of magic she managed to awaken. The young Clarkus gets all flustered and doesn't know what to say, but our boy insists, saying he really wants to see her magic. The little girl remains silent, looking very worried, and so, she then explains that she's embarrassed because she hasn't been able to use it yet. Our hero understands the situation and seems to have an idea in his head. He then looks at her and says he finally understands everything. Arad asks if she's just pretending to use magic for fear of failing. He explains that he knows this because he didn't see any mana traces. Our boy then tells her not to worry and to try again. The little girl remembers his words and seems more confident. Our hero smiles to encourage her not to give up trying, and so the girl gets nervous but decides she's going to try to use her power, and she then becomes determined and says she will try one more time, and Clarkus says she will do it especially for Lord Arad. She then concentrates and a golden aura begins to glow. The magic she received in the oracle was that of magic acceleration. Suddenly, an explosion of golden light knocks them both backward. A small sphere of energy floats in our boy's hand. The young man who was watching is shocked by what he just saw. Our hero then remembers his 25 years of playing video games. He remembers that in RPGs, he always paid attention to the mages, and especially those who used buff spells to strengthen the team. These spells temporarily increase the stats of allies. Ignoring buffs just because you can't see them is not understanding the game. The little girl asks how it was, and our hero is thoughtful for a moment. He explains there was no visible change, so it must be a healing or buff spell. That's why our boy asks what the name of the spell she used is, and so she then reveals that the name of the magic is quick magic, and he is shocked. And to test it, he starts running around the courtyard with a clone of himself, but he notices the magic doesn't make him faster and gets confused. Our protagonist decides to test his fireball to see. He then launches a fireball with incredible speed. The magic is so fast it looks like a bolt of fire streaking across the sky. The other kids are jaw-dropped at the speed of the attack. Our hero praises Clarkus and says the casting speed was insane. The girl feels awkward, but our boy says she's mistaken. He explains that speed buffs are the most important in a fight. Our protagonist gets excited and says it's one of the most important spells. But the little girl still thinks that for someone like her, it's not a big deal. Suddenly, the other young man agrees with Arad and praises her spell. He even says that if she tells the count, her salary will increase 50-fold. Our boy gives a thumbs up, and the girl gets excited at the idea. Clarkus then smiles, looking very happy and confident with her new power. One of the mages grumbles that he's meeting a lot of new mages this year. Suddenly, the young man calls Arad and points to someone approaching. It was the young Arya, who had just arrived at the count's estate. The girl stares at our protagonist with a very serious and annoyed look. Our hero is surprised, as he didn't expect to see her there so soon, and she then greets him with a forced smile, and he replies awkwardly. He asks what brings her there, and she says she came on her grandfather's orders. Arya explains she came to deliver something to Count Barton at his request, and so our boy then understands that she's just there to deliver a message. He then jokes and says he thought she came to see him. Our protagonist laughs, but the girl turns bright red and gets nervous. Arya gets super embarrassed, and our hero doesn't understand her reaction, and she then changes the subject and asks who the girl next to him is. Our hero explains that she's a maid whose birthday is today. The girl is surprised by the news and looks at the young Clarkus. Arya then approaches and asks for the little maid's name. The little girl gets nervous because Lady Arya spoke to her first. Clarkus says that at the last party, she thought Lady Arya was very cool and beautiful. The young mage gets flustered by the compliment but says nothing. Our protagonist then silently observes the girl's reaction. He then suggests that since they're all here, they could practice together. The two girls are surprised and repeat the question to our hero. He explains that Arya could help Clarkus with a demonstration. The little girl gets super excited at the idea of training with her idol. Arya is also happy to be called a senior and seems to like it. She then agrees to help since our boy insisted so much. Our protagonist is pleased and Arya smiles very confidently, and he then tells Clarkus that this is great news for her. Our hero thinks that Arya takes good care of the people around her. The two then start training together in the mansion's courtyard. Our boy then remembers that Arya is also from a noble family. That's why he wonders who the real Arad standing there is. And so, the young man says he's more mature than he looks and our hero laughs. And suddenly, an important figure approaches the group of youngsters. It was the patriarch of the family, who greets everyone with a smile. He then joins the group to watch the children's training. The old man then becomes thoughtful, observing Arya and Clarkus training, and the patriarch then praises Clarkus and tells her to keep up the hard work. He then turns to Arad and calls him over with a very serious look, and so the old man tells our boy to prepare for something important. He then reveals that the king's permission has finally been granted. Our protagonist is shocked, as he didn't expect this news, and so, the three of them set off in a carriage to a mysterious place. Our hero thinks he's finally going to see the place of the meteor strike, but he wonders if Arya can also go to such a secret place. The patriarch looks at our boy with a very serious and focused gaze. He then says it's alright and that there's no problem at all. The old man explains that he has known Arya's grandfather for a long time, and that just like him, the Lewis family also has things to protect. The patriarch then asks Arya to tell our hero the name of her family's title, and so the girl agrees and reveals that the name is Manahil to our hero. Our boy is surprised, as he's never heard of such a magic. He then realizes it's a spell that restores mana, just like in games, and he remembers that in games, ways to recover MP are very limited. Our hero then understands why this magic was so rare and powerful. And so one of the girls in the group asks Clarkus if she's going to keep training, and so, the young mage thanks her for her concern and says she'll take it easy, and so Arya and the patriarch encourage the young Clarkus to continue training. Our boy also smiles at the girl, making her feel super motivated. Clarkus then gets emotional and thanks everyone for their support. Suddenly, her eyes shine, and she seems to have a new goal. The carriage continues its journey along a very bumpy road, and so vehicle shakes a lot, and the passengers try to hold on. A masked coachman guides the animals with great skill. The carriage then arrives at its destination in a very remote place. The patriarch asks Arya to explain to Arya what a title is. Our hero then remembers that her title is Manahil. Arya then says that the patriarch's title is Count of the Meteor Strike. Arad then explains that the name of the title is the name of an ancient magic. He also says that it's a powerful magic that no longer exists today. The Patriarch asks if that explanation was enough for her. The old man then says yes, because he doesn't need more details. Arya gets super excited and wonders if the place has to do with the magic. The Patriarch confirms and says the place is linked to the meteor strike. The girl then wonders if her family also has a place like this. Our hero thinks that no one questioned how he knows so much, and so, he then concludes that this is something only a gaming nerd would think of. Our boy then remembers the resurrection magic he found. He then asks the Patriarch if he knows about this ancient magic, and Arad wants to know if the old man has ever heard of resurrection of the dead. The Patriarch reveals that this is the name of a duke's title, and explains that the title of duke is even higher than that of count. Our hero then asks if this magic also has a related place, but the old man explains that a duke doesn't govern a single territory. Arad becomes thoughtful, as this means there's no place to go, and so he then wonders why he found a fragment of that magic in the forest. Suddenly, Arya interrupts him, and he turns to see what happened. The Patriarch also gets curious and asks what's wrong with her. The girl then reveals she learned a new technique and wants to show them. She says she came here for this but ended up forgetting the reason, and so our hero reminds her that she came on her grandfather's orders with a message. Arya then asks for permission to show her new technique to the Lord. The Patriarch agrees and says they should take a short break. The carriage stops near a river, and everyone gets out to rest, and the animals take the opportunity to drink water and cool off from the heat. The Patriarch and our heroes sit down to wait for the demonstration. Arya then concentrates and creates a small fireball in her hands. Our boy watches the scene in silence, looking very focused, and so the fire energy in Arya's hand begins to take on a different shape, and suddenly, the magic explodes and the girl screams in surprise. The Patriarch finds the technique complicated, and our hero gets worried. He warns that if she keeps this up, she'll run out of mana soon. But Arya says she won't give up, and that she'll get it this time. She then concentrates again, and the fire energy begins to glow once more. The magic explodes again, but this time it takes a shape, and the girl celebrates because she finally managed to perform her technique. The Patriarch is impressed to see a fire bird in her hand. Our hero thinks that no one would think of giving shape to fire, and he then concludes that it was a child's imagination that inspired her. But he knows that even so, it takes a lot of effort to control. Our protagonist then praises the girl and says he's impressed. Arya smiles proud of her achievement and holds the fire bird. The Patriarch also praises her and says her grandfather would be moved. The girl then gets confused, and the old man looks at her, not understanding, and so she reveals that she hasn't shown the new technique to her grandfather yet. Our hero and the Patriarch then fall silent for a moment. The old man laughs and messes up our boy's hair again. Our boy then asks if she can also make the bird fly. Arya smiles and says she can definitely do that without any problem. She then launches the fire bird, which flies toward the sky. The magical creature flies in circles and transforms into a phoenix. Then, the bird explodes in a shower of sparks on the ground. The girl then smiles, proud of her incredible display of power. Our hero and the Patriarch are jaw-dropped by the spectacle. The old man says the power is low, but she can improve it over time. But our protagonist says he thinks the magic is already perfect. He explains that a fire bird causes psychological shock to the enemy. Arya gets flustered by the compliment, but our hero continues his analysis. He notes that the destructive power is low, and in combat, that's important, but he soon realizes he's thinking in a very limited way. Our hero wonders why he judges everything by appearance or power. He understands that if he gets stuck on that, he won't be able to think clearly. That's why our boy asks Arya to teach him how to use that spell. The girl agrees excitedly but warns him it won't be easy at all. And so a while later, the carriage continues its journey down the road. The group then arrives at a beach and gets out to rest for a bit. Arya then begins to teach our hero how to control mana. Our boy then tries to use the magic and creates a large explosion. Everyone is shocked by the size of the fire explosion. Arad stands in the middle of the fire, looking a bit confused by the result. He thinks the magic is huge, and the Patriarch agrees with a smile. And so, our hero then thinks that getting it right on the first try is very difficult, and so he didn't expect something dangerous to happen at their destination. The carriage continues its journey, and our boy is lost in thought. He then remembers his ice magic and creates a small sculpture, and so Arya is impressed by the interesting shape of the sculpture. Our boy then creates several other ice sculptures on the table. The Patriarch praises him and says he truly has a lot of skill, but our hero gets annoyed because he can't control the fire. He grumbles that fire is much harder to shape than ice. Our protagonist then concentrates to try again calmly. Arya advises him to imagine a shape that is familiar to him, and she then remembers the person who taught her that spell. The girl explains that her master told her to think of an origami crane. Our hero understands the concept and seems to have a new idea, and he then remembers the origami he used to make in his past life. That's why Arad decides to imagine a shape that is familiar to him. Arya asks what's wrong, and our hero has an idea. He says he wants to try a new method for using the magic. Our protagonist then decides he's going to use his invisibility magic, and he knows the fire bird is hard to control, but he has a plan. Arad will create a fireball and use invisibility to give it shape. He was already planning to test this with his fireball anyway, and so he thinks there's no harm in taking a little shortcut. Our boy then concentrates to use both spells at once. He prepares the fireball in his right hand and invisibility in his left. Suddenly he faints, and Arya gets super worried about him. The girl then holds him and desperately screams his name at the scene. Our hero wakes up confused and doesn't understand what happened to him. He asks what happened, and Arya says he passed out all of a sudden. Our boy is shocked, as he doesn't remember fainting. The Patriarch then scolds him for overexerting himself with magic. He explains that it's a classic case of mana exhaustion, and that it happens when you use too much magical energy at once. The old man then warns Arya to be careful, as this can be dangerous. Our protagonist then apologizes for worrying everyone. He then falls silent, processing the new information he received. Our hero panics because his perfect plan went down the drain. But the Patriarch says it was splendid, and our boy doesn't understand a thing. The old man explains that he saw a magnificent fire just before he passed out. Arad's face lights up with surprise and happiness at the news. He then celebrates because his perfect plan worked out in the end. The Patriarch then calls him and warns him not to overexert himself. Arya holds his hand, and he agrees to stay quiet so as not to worry her. Our boy thinks that mana exhaustion is scary and that he must be careful, and the carriage then continues its journey through a very desert-like landscape, and suddenly, they arrive at a place with a large, blue water lake, and so, a wooden bridge leads to a small island in the middle of that lake. Arya is amazed by the beauty of the place and says it's beautiful. Our protagonist observes the blue lake and is impressed with the view, and he asks if this is the place of the meteor strike, and the old man confirms. The Patriarch then points and says that to be precise, it's the small island there. Our hero squints, trying to get a better look at the place. Arya calls him excitedly, and our protagonist agrees to go with her. Our boy walks across the bridge, super excited to reach the island. He wonders if there are ruins, treasures, or even a dungeon there, but the old man says it's nothing like that, with a mysterious smile. The Patriarch explains that the island is nothing special, just overgrown with weeds. Our hero then looks at the place and seems very disappointed with the view, and so he wonders if there's really nothing there, even though it's a place of magic. But the boy has a gut feeling that there's something hidden in that place. Suddenly, Arya lets out a scream, and the old man asks what happened. The girl points, scared, and says she had the impression that the statue moved. Our protagonist asks if the statue moved and is very confused, and so she then points again and yells for them to look at the statue, and suddenly, the statue's eyes begin to glow with a yellow light. The statue then begins to move, and everyone is shocked by the scene. The stone giant slowly rises, frightening the entire group. Its eyes continue to glow intensely as it awakens. The Patriarch then prepares to protect the children from the danger. A dark energy begins to emanate from the statue and envelopes its body. Arya screams in fear and says that is definitely real magic. The girl is paralyzed with fear by the creature in front of her. The old man then yells and warns that the danger is coming from above, and the stone giant prepares to attack the group with all its might. Our hero stands at the edge of the pier, observing the scene on high alert. Arad's eyes are wide open, as he can't believe what he's seeing, and a fiery meteor falls from the sky towards the lake with great force. Our protagonist screams in terror at the gigantic explosion, and so even the Patriarch's jaw drops at the power of the attack, and the shockwave from the impact throws everyone backward with great violence. Arya screams as she is hurled away by the strong wind. The Patriarch runs to try and help the girl who is in danger. Our hero then catches her and says not to underestimate a country boy. The old man shouts Arad's name, worried for his safety. Our protagonist then holds her tightly to protect her from the fall. The meteor hits the lake and causes an explosion of water and fire. The lake water is thrown high into the air, forming a gigantic wave. The rain begins to fall, and the lake water starts to rise rapidly. The giant wave advances and destroys part of the wooden bridge. Our boy asks if Arya is okay while holding the girl. He notices she isn't hurt and seems very relieved about it. The Patriarch asks if our hero is alright after all the commotion. He confirms that he is and asks if the old man was injured in the attack, and so the Patriarch says he wasn't hurt but seems worried about something. Our boy looks to the side and seems to notice something strange. The other three statues have also awakened and are ready to fight. The Patriarch says the attack was definitely the meteor strike. He then notices that the bridge wasn't destroyed by the attack, but the pavilion his family built is completely in ruins. And so, the old man then concludes that the bridge must have some kind of secret. Our boy remains silent, observing the Patriarch's reaction, and so Arad wonders if the bridge and the statues are connected to the ancient magic. The Patriarch seems to understand something, and our hero is confused. And the old man always wondered why the bridge had that shape. Our protagonist agrees and says the bridge is very weird. The Patriarch explains that the bridge was a defense against undead monsters. But since nothing happened, there was no way to know the reason for its shape, and so, the old man then concludes that this whole thing was a trap from the beginning. Our boy agrees, as no one would cross the bridge with meteors falling, and he understands that the bridge is a simple but effective defensive wall, and so the Patriarch tells Arad that they need to go back and investigate the place. Our hero agrees, and the old man reminds him that the place is not safe, and so, therefore, he says they need to get out of there as quickly as possible. The Patriarch says that escaping is the priority, as the situation is dangerous. He then places a hand on Arad's head and looks at him seriously. The old man then asks if our boy can protect the young Arya. Our boy is confused by the question, but the Patriarch continues, and he then says that protecting a young lady with one's life is a man's duty. The old man praises the response, and our hero seems to understand the situation. The Patriarch explains that if something happens, he won't be able to face his friend. Our protagonist wonders why he is saying this now. The old man then says he is counting on him to protect Arya. He then throws them both into the air, and our boy is shocked. The two are launched towards the sky with great force. Our hero is upside down and doesn't understand the situation, and so, he then sees that they are flying towards the island in the middle of the lake. One of the stone giants prepares to attack, but it's too late. Our protagonist understands that this way they can cross without any problem, but suddenly, he looks down and sees the Patriarch falling. The old man throws himself into the lake to serve as bait for the statues. Our boy is shocked by the Patriarch's action and calls out to him. Arya thinks the scene is incredible and praises the old man for his courage. The girl then screams in fear as they continue flying through the sky. Our hero shouts in a strange language and becomes desperate. He then tells Arya to hold on tight because the landing is going to be rough. The girl screams as she hugs him tightly, not understanding the situation. Our boy flies through the sky, holding Arya very tightly. He then remembers the Patriarch's words about protecting a lady, and suddenly, our hero understands what the old man meant by that. He then uses his ice magic to create a large slide. One of the stone giants watches him and prepares to attack again. Our hero understands that the Patriarch left the landing up to him. Two masked guards watch the scene, shocked by his skill. The Patriarch asks if he managed to land and seems impressed. Our boy and Arya celebrate because the ice slide worked. He says that Arya's magic is more incredible because the firebird is difficult, and so, the old man says that without him, they would have had to risk their lives on the bridge. He then praises our protagonist's physical ability and compliments him. Our hero wonders if the Patriarch can also use magic. The old man thanks him for protecting the young Arya from danger. The girl is moved, and her eyes fill with tears of gratitude. The Patriarch says the exercise was as tiring as a light walk. The two then meet up, and the Patriarch praises our protagonist. The old man is surprised, as Arad has already recovered all his mana. He then reveals he was planning to catch them but didn't expect that trick, and so, our boy then understands that the Patriarch was going to catch them in mid-air. The Patriarch says he's happy that everyone is safe, and so, he then warns that they need to get out of there as quickly as possible. Our protagonist decides he's not going to overexert himself anymore. He then looks at the ice slide and thinks about retreating. One of the guards calls him to hurry, but our hero notices something. He remembers seeing the mana traces of the meteor strike. Back at the mansion, a maid greets them and welcomes them back. The Patriarch asks if anything happened, and the maid confirms, and so she then reveals that the young Clarkus has fainted and is in critical condition. Arya and our hero are shocked by the news and very worried. Night falls over the Count's mansion, and a giant full moon illuminates the starry sky. Inside the mansion, a long silent hallway stretches into the darkness. Next, we see two men and a girl sitting on the floor, looking very worried. One of the men stares at a door with a serious, thoughtful expression, and suddenly, our protagonist comes running down the hall in a panic, calling for Arad. Our hero asks where Clarkos is, and the man replies that she's in the infirmary, and so without a second thought, the boy rushes towards the door, but the man grabs him by the arm. Our protagonist turns around, surprised, not understanding why he was stopped from going in. The man then says that it's better if he doesn't see the girl right now, leaving our hero confused. Our guy immediately fears the worst, but the man clarifies that she's alive, but his sentence hangs in the air, creating a suspenseful mood about the girl's condition. Suddenly, the other man shows up, and his partner gives him a look, not understanding the situation. The newcomer says it would be good for the boy to see what happened, and the other man questions him, explains that our protagonist also uses his mana recklessly, and that's why he needs to see with his own eyes what happens when you ignore your limits. Even with the warning, our protagonist decides he needs to see for himself. With that, he reaches a trembling hand for the infirmary doorknob, and as the door opens, the first thing they see are someone's feet on the floor. Suddenly little Arya runs desperately towards the room, calling for Arad. From there, she shoves the door open with all her might, revealing the scene to everyone. The group of kids runs into the room, and a boy calls out for Arya, worried. A moment later, he stops dead in his tracks when he sees the sight of Clarkos on the floor. Because of this, Arya collapses to the floor in shock, and her friend is frozen beside her. The white-haired boy's eyes widen in pure terror. Outside, the full moon lights up the night sky, creating a somber atmosphere. The reflection in the window shows the horrible scene and a dark energy in the room. This dark mana begins to slowly spread throughout the room, and so faced with the situation, the group watches from the doorway as the mana covers Clarkos's bed. The white-haired boy turns and gives our hero a total "I told you so" look. Our protagonist then explains that Clarkos used all her mana, pushing it past the limit. He continues, saying that the symptoms aren't just a temporary lack of mana. The young man explains that if you use magic beyond your limit, your power won't recover on its own. Our protagonist then says that in the end, something terrible happens. The white-haired boy nervously asks what happens in the end. Arad and his companion remain silent, their expressions incredibly grim. Arya looks confused, glancing at her friend who is looking down at the floor. Unable to take the suspense, the boy yells, asking again what happens. The answer comes direct and terrifying, with the words, "You die." At that exact moment, a girl with blonde hair appears in the doorway. She looks at the group and says, "No you don't," leaving everyone confused. Arya starts to panic, saying that it can't be true. Meanwhile, the dark energy continues to spread through the area. The newly arrived girl walks slowly into the room. With that, she stops in front of the others and calmly observes the situation. Arya turns to our hero and asks if there isn't some way to save her. Our protagonist explains that mana usually recovers on its own, but if she's reached this point, there's no hope. The blonde girl disagrees, saying she should have paid more attention before. With that, she warns the red-haired girl to be careful because she pushes herself too hard. If she's not careful, something really bad could happen to her. The white-haired boy feels guilty, remembering how he said that mistakes can be fixed. Because of what he said, Clarkos pushed her mana to the limit to show off her magic, and so, the young man continues to feel guilty while our hero watches the scene unfold. At that moment, the boy gets an idea and says that if the problem is a lack of mana, and so then if they can restore her mana, they could save the girl. Arad's partner says that, in theory yes, but the best thing to do is wait patiently. Suddenly the white-haired boy screams Arya's name, surprising everyone. The girl is completely frozen by her friend's sudden shout. Far away, a knight gallops at high speed through the dark night. Arya uses a spell, and our protagonist explains that it's an ancient technique that restores mana. The knight approaches the castle as the girl says that she just knows about the magic, and so, a carriage travels at high speed through the darkness of the night, carrying the children. The white-haired boy asks Arya to take him to the place connected with mana healing. Moved by his determination, the little girl agrees to help save Clarkos. The night passes quickly, and a beautiful sunrise appears on the horizon. Inside the vehicle, the two travel together, and the boy stays awake and determined. They cross a lush landscape with vast rivers and forests. Soon after, they finally reach their destination, a gigantic mansion. There, they find a young woman with pink hair who is surprised to see Arya. From the balcony, the woman questions why the little girl returned so soon. Arya runs up and asks the woman named Freya where her grandfather is. The woman replies that he's in his office, and the two run off without waiting. Faced with the situation, Freya's left behind, completely confused by their rush. With great urgency, the pair runs through the hallways of the enormous mansion. When they arrive, they are greeted by several maids who welcome them. The maids try to tidy up the girl, but she says she's busy and rushes past them. Inside the office, an elderly man is sitting at his desk looking very busy. Suddenly the door flies open and Arya bursts in, leaving the boy behind. The little girl calls out for her grandpa, and the man recognizes her immediately. Surprised by the sudden visit, he stands up and asks what's going on. With her eyes full of tears, Arya begs him to take them to the sacred ground right now. Her grandfather asks for an explanation, but the girl insists she'll tell him everything later. She says the situation is urgent, but the man finds it all very sudden, and so because of this, he asks her to calm down and says the place belongs to the royal family. Seeing the difficulty, the white-haired boy offers to explain the situation, but Arya interrupts him and says to leave it to her, as she knows her grandpa well. The girl gets serious and says that for Clarkos' sake, she has no choice but to use a spell. Her friend is shocked, thinking she might use some kind of manipulation magic. The grandfather watches his granddaughter as she prepares to use her supposed power. The little girl takes a deep breath, gathering all her courage for the big moment. A moment later, she screams that she hates her grandpa and will never speak to him again. The white-haired boy is completely stunned by his friend's magic. The granddaughter's words hit the grandfather like a ton of bricks, and he freezes in shock. Because of this, the old man loses his balance and falls backward as if he'd been struck. Completely defeated, the grandfather lies on the floor with his hand on his head, devastated. The little girl's strategy was a critical hit, and it was super effective against the poor man.